Hey guys! So for those of you just popping in, I've been working on an RTS where you operate a colony that has been forced underground by a meshed biological and AI force in an apocalyptic scenario. The world of this game takes inspiration from the world of the CG anime Blame. By the way, if you haven't seen it and don't mind CG animes, I recommend putting that on your watch list. Now, let's talk about the game. So unfortunately, I've decided to shelve Node Colony indefinitely. I'm just not content with the project anymore. In hindsight, it wasn't a great idea to start on it in the first place, and it is a jam game and I wanted to extrapolate it into a fully publishable game. As I continued to work on it though, I realized that I wasn't very interested in the game itself. This caused a myriad of motivation and discipline issues, and I just did not want to work on it. Considering this, and that I'd need several months or more of development time at the pace I was going, I decided to switch to an idea that I've wanted to work on for some time. I actually started working on it and made several development videos about it months ago. If you want, you can check those out. However, the idea and my execution at the time has changed somewhat since then, the latter much more so. So, what is it? It's Stellar Assembler, a game where you play as an who now owns a spaceship and seeks to reap riches from the young space harvestation industry. You go about building up infrastructure on planets while mining, chopping down, and digging up the resources and protecting them from raiders and pirates. Let me take you through the last week of progress. My previous method of development had been to just create a game out of brain dumps without really writing much down. Since then, I found design documents to be very helpful in keeping the ball rolling. It's just hard to create a game when you're constantly forgetting how the parts fit together. I actually had a design document made for it already, but being one of the first I've ever made, it wasn't written to my current standards. So the first step was to rewrite the design doc. I took a few days and mulled over the planets and different types of resources, equipment, and some of the items in the game. Now that I had that, I figured it was good enough to start working on it, and I would just have to come back and write out the different mechanics later. With that out of the way, I started working on the blueprinting system. This allows the player the ability to preview and build things, just like what I was doing in Node Colony the week before last. I first need to be able to tell the game where things could be built. To do this, I simply quartered the circumference of the planet into however many cells I wanted on it. The next step was to be able to select each cell either by clicking on it or by hovering over it with your ship. I started with the ship selection first. To create that, I had the blueprinter figure out which cell the player was hovering over after giving it the player's position. With that out of the way, I got the mouse selection to work in much the same way. Instead of the player's position, I gave it the mouse position and I had it hold that cell until it was deselected with the mouse. Now we could work on actually building things. To do so, I created a basic structure prefab. I then added a simple slide-in animation to give it a much nicer first impression before I actually go to polish it. All I had to do was just instantiate them now. After doing so, I needed to add the different cell types, or placeholder ones anyway. I drew up some quick art and placed it on a prefab. I also gave it a basic script to have it change its sprite and rotation according to what it was and where it was on the planet. In doing so, I ran into a weird bug where it wouldn't recognize some of the cell types for whatever reason. These were stored in a constant list of strings that was built into the main part of the script, so it started to drive me mad for a bit because it couldn't really be much else. And that was until I tried messing with the editor. It turns out the editor was actually changing the values when I hit play, even though I hadn't really changed them in the inspector at all. And that's everything. Over the next week, I'll be spending most of my time on resource harvesting and the stockpile systems. Hopefully I can get through them all. As always, thank you for watching. If you're interested in the project, or just me for some reason, I'd appreciate if you give the video a like and hit subscribe. I post a devlog every Sunday. See you next week!